my name's Greg, and I work for Compassion Over Killing, which has a booth right over there, if you'd like to learn more about us. And the thing that kind of first struck me about the plight of farmed animals were the numbers. When I was young, I used to love numbers. I would spend hours on my parents' dial-up modem reading about baseball statistics. I think it was like a way for me to participate in the glorious masculinity of sports without any talent or strength. And as I got older and I started to care about more than just sports, I began to learn about just the scope of the suffering on factory farms, up to nearly 10 billion animals a year suffering on factory farms right now. And just processing a number that big is so difficult. But as I got older, I began to think of each one of those 10 billion animals a year, as a feeling sentient being. And that led me to recognize sort of not only the wrong that was being done, but also the capacity for good that could come from good advocacy work, the scope of the good that could be done. So I think that the size of these numbers is a big part of the reason why structural legal advocacy work for animals can be so impactful. Because even though the laws that protect farmed animals in this country are extraordinarily limited, a minor change in the way that a law is interpreted or a successful lawsuit can just have a massive impact on the lives of thousands, millions, and potentially, and hopefully, even billions of farmed animals' lives. So I'm going to talk about a couple of ways that legal advocates have used the law to protect and to prevent harm to farmed animals. And the first one is by using legal interests that the law does recognize, most particularly those of humans, as kind of like a proxy to protect animals. So as an example of this, in the 2000s, the dairy industry had this program that they euphemistically called the Dairy Herd Retirement Program, which was basically paying farmers to kill over 500,000 young cows in order to decrease production and increase the price of milk. Now, there are no laws, right, that protect the lives of those cows, but there are laws that protect human consumers against having having an industry come together to raise prices on them. And we initiated a lawsuit based on those laws and ultimately got a $52 million settlement. And also, and more importantly, I would say, put the industry on notice that programs like this are going to raise legal problems in the future. The second way that I'm going to talk about is trying to expand the scope of the limited laws that we already have. So at the state level, criminal animal cruelty laws generally exempt what are called accepted animal husbandry practices, which basically means, right, if you have a pet pig and you castrate the pig without anesthetic, you might get charged with animal cruelty. But if millions of pigs are castrated without anesthetic, as they are on factory farms all the time, that's totally fine. So a couple of years ago, an undercover investigator with our group went into 4 facilities that contract with Tyson Foods to house breeder chickens. And the investigator found something that, as far as we know, no one in the animal advocacy community or in the public had ever seen before, which was these male breeder chickens with plastic rods jammed through their beaks so that they couldn't access the food of the females. And the reason for this is because their genetics means that they become obese so fast that if they eat normally, they're not going to be able to serve their purpose as breeder chickens because they're going to get obese and die. So even though this practice was relatively widespread in the industry, we were able to get criminal charges for it. And as far as we know, this is the first time that a common industry practice has ever been criminalized. And it was a big deal. After that, in the immediate aftermath, 4 of the biggest chicken producers stopped using these, which are called nose bones. So, those are just 2 examples among many that of the legal advocacy stuff that is being done by a number of animal rights and animal welfare groups that is affecting extraordinarily large numbers of animals. And even though I know that numbers don't matter for their own sake, in these instances, when each number is a feeling sentient being, every number counts. Thanks so much.